You're tuned in to Track Talk on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right. America's largest all-sports radio station presents the #1 motorsports show in the Midwest for over a decade. Track Talk, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet. Here are the RacinBoys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Good morning, race fans. On an early Saturday morning here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, it's time for Track Talk with the RacinBoys, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet. Check them out at kccars.com. Don't forget, McCarthy Toyota in Sedalia now as well. Many options when it comes to McCarthy. Check them out at kccars.com. That will take you to all the McCarthy Auto Group dealerships. Find a car that you like and purchase it today. Maybe purchase one for your family member for Christmas. I'm Scott Traylor along with Kirk Elliott, Jed Marshall back at Sports Radio 810 WHB, and Todd Surprise here flipping the switches on the live in-studio cameras. You can check us out on the web if you want to watch us in studio or hang out on the chat room. Just go to RacinBoys.com. Click on Media at the top of the page. You'll see a little drop-down window. It'll say Live TV. You click on that. Next thing you know, you're hanging out in lovely Independence, Missouri at RacinBoys HQ. And before we get into everything that's going on, Nick Newton's going to be on with us here a little bit later. He is the B-Mod champion out at Lakeside Speedway. Lakeside Speedway probably going to be heavy on topics here this morning. After last week's show, everybody knows that we talked about the sale, and there's some new news to that, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. But before we do all of that and talk about racing, folks, I've got to start off the show by talking about all the kids that lost their life at Sandy Hook's Elementary yesterday. 20 young children murdered by an assassin, a crazed man with a gun going into a school and killing so many young children from the age of, kindergarten to, fourth grade, I believe. And I will tell you, as a father, and watching last night, very disturbing. Hard to keep your emotions together watching all that. I don't know how many times I cried watching the parents and the pictures of the ones that have lost their child. And I will tell you, couldn't even hardly go to sleep last night with my thoughts of the family members and what they must be going through, not being able to get to their child who is still inside the school. It's a crime scene. And I'm going to tell you, folks, that is just so gut-wrenching to me. Just the thought of not being able to get to your child, knowing that your child is in that school after such a tragedy. I can't even imagine what that would feel like, not being able to get in there to them. But I will tell you, I'm not going to get on a gun kick here. I believe people have the right to bear arms if they would like to. But at the same time, we have got to do something to make sure that people like the guy yesterday that went into that school do not have access to guns. You know, and I hate to even get on this subject because I know so many people are passionate about their guns. I, for one, am a person that shouldn't own a gun. I've owned them, but I, for one, am a person that shouldn't own one. If you've got the wrong temperament, if you've got the wrong attitude, and I did a lot when I was young, not the kind of person that should own a gun. And we need to protect the citizens of this country from people that don't belong as gun owners. And that's all I'm going to put it. But I do believe people have the right to have a gun. I do believe in that. We've got to figure out a way, Kirk, to make sure that the wrong people don't get these guns in their hands, and that's what I'm trying to get at right here. But just a sad day yesterday.
Well, I'm not going to get into the gun debate, but I'm with you, Scott. I was just very emotional watching the coverage of this very tragic and sad event yesterday, and so unthinkable that a human being, if you want to call him that, would do such a thing to small children. I mean, this is the worst thing. This is the worst thing I think I've ever seen, Scott. This is just so unspeakable, the evil that this person did yesterday to attack young children in a
innocent
school.
Children.
I mean, this is just something
that
you and I
protect themselves.
Something you and I would just never, at our age, we're over 50, we'd never think about anything like this when we were growing up as a child. And now you have children that are worried all over the country going to school.
Right.
How safe? I mean, safety wasn't even a thought when we were going to school. But now these incidents, and I have to admit, Scott, when I first heard about this yesterday, maybe we've heard about so many of these shooting incidents that I was shocked that I wasn't more shocked when I first heard about it. But then after the news and the details started rolling in, that's when you and I get emotional about this, when we realize it dawns on us. These are young children that got attacked yesterday, but there's been so many of these shooting incidents that we're almost numb to it. And here was just 2 weeks ago, the Javon Belcher incident that was going on right at this very same time.
When we were on the air, we knew all that was going down at the time, but we didn't have enough information for us to speak about it during the show. And in fact, this is a motorsports show, but this has touched us a little bit more because of the young, innocent children. And
but it does make you wonder what in a world is going on in this world with all of these incidents that are happening that would just never even occur to us many years ago when we were growing up. The world is different now. It's a different world, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't want to get any kind of debate over guns or anything else, but we certainly need to have an open conversation about what is causing a lot of this evil that's going on around the country.
Well, our thoughts and prayers with all the kids. And, I've got to say our thoughts and prayers with the kids that survived the accident as well, the incident as well.
How traumatized they'll be for the rest of their lives.
Listen, when they told me, when I was listening to the news last night, and when they said that they told the children when they walked them out, close your eyes and don't look, it about just made me bawl my eyes out. Just to think that these kids know what happened. They know that something happened. And when you tell them to close their eyes, darn good and well, those kids kind of
peek. It just makes you sick to
your
stomach.
They peek as they walk out, and they see kids that they played out on the playground with or went to recess with or interacted with at the school or played with them during the summer months. To see their friends perish like that, just sickening to me to even think about it. So,
well, this affected a lot of people, and the parents of these children and how they're going to have to deal with this. Teachers, school children themselves. It is just unbelievable.
It's going to affect, like you said, Kirk, everybody in the country, because now children at local schools here in Kansas City, they're going to ask their parents some tough questions. What happened, Mom? He what? And as you stated, now the kids, even far away from Connecticut, are going to worry about, can this happen at my school? So I don't know if it's a good thing to let your kids know what's going on, but if they do find out about it, you need to talk to them about it, and that's a tough conversation. As a parent, that's a very tough conversation.
Well, we're not going to spend the whole show talking about this, but we needed to talk about it because this has affected everybody in this country. There's just no doubt about that. I mean, I haven't spoken to anybody that hasn't gotten emotional over this.
Right.
I know Todd's surprised. He's got 2 young children, and this just affects everybody.
You know what I said on Twitter and Facebook last night, and I think this is. Really, I do it. You've heard me talk to my children a lot. Every time before I hang up on the phone or the last time I see them, I give them a hug and I give them a kiss and I tell them I love them. Just make sure you do that every time, because you just in this world, you just never know. Car accident, what could happen? Crazed boyfriend, a maniac going into a school. You just never know. And you want to make sure you say the things that mean the most to your children. So make sure that you give them a hug, and at the very least, and tell them that you love them each and every time you're parting ways with them. And I think that would give you a little less pain knowing that you did that, but it's definitely not going to heal the wound totally if something like this was to happen to you.
I know one thing that's not up for debate. We have to protect the children.
Right. Well, there it is. We'll keep following what's going on. I'm sure a lot of people are locked in on the news early this morning. I know I went to bed. That's all I could think about again. So thoughts and prayers to the family.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't get much sleep last night because of this.
I didn't either.
I woke up in the middle of the night thinking about it, and I couldn't get back to sleep.
Well, thoughts and prayers are to the people in Newtown, Connecticut, and hopefully they'll be able to get through this with as little pain as possible. Let's get right into it, Kirk. Again, Nick Newton's going to be joining us here in a little bit. He won the B-Mod Championship at Lakeside Speedway, second-generation driver, Tom Newton's son. Also fabricator, Cheetah Chassis, very successful fabricator. Brad Smith won, I don't know, maybe 20 races this year in a Cheetah Chassis after dominating B-Mod racing in a different form of a chassis over the years. Decided to go with Cheetah, and Nick Newton built him a chassis, and they won a lot of races. So we're going to have Nick on, talk about that. Talk about the big fire that they had out there this year where it burnt his car to the ground. Also, his dad retiring many years ago, still active. His mom and dad are still active down there in the pits, helping him out quite a bit.
I was not very far away from that fire when it happened, too.
And you had a camera in your hand, too. What happened there, Kurt?
Well, I'm not, as everybody knows, I'm not an expert running a camera. I try to do my best, but I was in such shock that by the time
you were in freeze frame.
I was in freeze frame. By the time I got down there to try to shoot something, it had already been put out. I was too late, man.
Todd.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you.
Turn your mic up just a little bit, Todd.
I'll have to admit, I was standing there as well, and I was in freeze frame mode as well. It happened so fast and was so hot that I had my RacinBoys shirt on, and I literally felt like it was melting on my back. I mean, I jumped because I thought somebody had poured something cold on me, but it was so hot.
Right.
And happened so fast. And I believe our friend that sells the parts down there, he helped. Huey, his guys were the first ones on the scene, I believe, with fire extinguishers. They made a mad dash from where they parked their. But that was crazy. I'd never seen nothing like that.
It's just a wonder somebody didn't get hurt out of that.
Yeah, miracle.
But anyway, we'll talk about that. But, hey, big news this week. We talked a little bit about, you talked about it last week, Lakeside Speedway. The deal has been made.
Well, it has been made. And no, we're not going to have Mike Johnson on. And I'll tell you why we're not going to have Mike Johnson on this week. Though the announcement has came down that they have agreed on terms and the lawyers are in the final stages of the paperwork. As Mike Johnson stated to me this week, until that title's in my hand, it's not a done deal.
Well, it's usually the case with any sale of property. There's a closing date, and that's probably 30 days at least from now before that takes place, and that's when it becomes official.
How about Kirk Elliott this week now saying, oh, well, it's official. It's official.
It's a little more official.
Hey,
it's a little more official.
I'm a skeptical guy. I'd heard about the track being sold for years, and nothing happened, and here it does happen.
How many years?
I was skeptical.
Kurt,
I'll admit that.
How many years have I been your partner on this show? We're going on 13 years almost.
Yeah.
It'll be 13 years in June, right?
Right.
When I'm that adamant about something going on, you just need to work with me.
No, I didn't doubt your sources or anything else. I'm still skeptical to a certain degree.
Did he not doubt my sources last week, Todd? Come on, didn't he?
He didn't want nothing to. He backed off that real fast.
He was moonwalking all over the studio in here.
I'd heard a lot of the same things, but I've just been skeptical about the whole thing for a while. I was kind of in the mode, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, here it is.
What have you seen yet that makes you think that the track is sold any more this week than it was last week? Mike Johnson doesn't have title in hand.
It's more so now than it was before because Mark Olson has agreed to let it go.
Kurt, you knew the same information last week as you know right now, other than it hadn't been out.
But the deal hadn't been made yet.
But you had same information.
Finally, Mark Olson has agreed to do the deal, and until that happened, I was skeptical about it.
You believe him? You believe this guy,
yes.
Right?
That's the truth.
The spin meister going on. We're in spin cycle right here.
He's good at that.
This should be the no spin zone.
I'm repeating what I said last week. I'll believe it when I see it.
Now you're saying you'll believe it when you see it, or you believe it this week?
I believe it more now than I did before because Mark Olson has agreed to the deal to sell the track.
Everything's for sale, Kurt.
The agreement has been made, Scott.
Okay.
That sort of makes it official, even though not totally official.
Is Nick Newton coming on?
That's what's changed.
Final segment for Nick Newton?
The second segment.
We're doing the second segment with Nick Newton. All right. We got a lot of things to talk about Lakeside Speedway. Lucas Oil late models. The announcement has came out that they're going to be at Lakeside Speedway on July 16th. Big deal to bring in the Lucas Oil late model series. We're going to get into that, the new schedule, some of the things that you as a fan would like to see changed. We'll probably have to roll into hour number 2 to get all this in. What series that you would like to see run there, maybe what sanction. What are they going to do with the staff? Who's going to be working there? Is it going to be the same officials, same announcers, same everybody? These are questions that we're going to pose to the listeners, not so much Mike Johnson, but to the listeners. What would you like to see? What departments would you like to see changed? What would you like to see improved at the racetrack? These are the questions that we're going to ask you, and we'll take those phone calls at 913-3810-810, 913-3810-810. But before we do that, we're going to talk to B-Mod champion at Lakeside Speedway in 2012. Nick Newton joins the RacinBoys here on Track Talk next.
Okay, let's choose up. I'll take Jamal and Tutal. You can have Chubbs and Skippy. Let's go. My ball.
Okay. But you got skins.
Not a good negotiator? You don't have to be a good negotiator at McCarthy Chevrolet. McCarthy guarantees the lowest prices on a new Chevy or we'll pay you $10,000. We guarantee there's no need to shop anyplace else. McCarthy Chevrolet, I-35 and Santa Fe, Olathe.
Welcome back to Track Talk, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet. Check them out at kccars.com. Don't forget McCarthy Toyota in Sedalia. Great deals on Chevrolets and Toyotas. All you got to do is go to kccars.com. Speaking of cars, and a guy that builds some pretty nice chassis himself, Cheetah Chassis owner and 2012 B-Mod champion at Lakeside Speedway, Nick Newton joins us now on the show. Nick, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, pretty good, Scott. How you guys doing?
Doing real well. First of all, I just want to say I remember when old Nick was just a little snot-nosed kid running around the racetrack, following his dad Tom around the races, dying to drive a race car, and sure enough, he grew up and turned into one hell of a racer. Congratulations on winning the 2012 B-Mod Championship, Nick.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's been a pretty good road to championship, but we finally got it done.
Some 9 wins, I believe it is, in 2012. Which one of those wins meant the most to you? We're looking at a little video on RacinBoys TV. I know the listeners on 810 can't hear that right now, but a lot of excitement getting out of the car. What was the biggest win for you this year, Nick?
Man, I don't know. We've had a couple of good ones this year. We had the slider on Mike there at the start of the year. Then I took that one from Gene on the last lap. And
that's got to rate right up there, passing a legend like Gene Claxton on the last lap for a win. As a kid, that was my dream, is to outrun a guy like him. You know, that is the legend, maybe one of the biggest legends ever in Kansas City. There was probably a lot of satisfaction in that one.
Yeah, that was hell. I got across the finish line. And I was trying to figure out if I actually won or not, because I was still trying to remember if the car stuck in turn 3 when I still was in there.
Right. Well, and to go up there and go around a guy like Gene, again, if people that are listening to Sports Radio 810 don't know who Gene Claxton is, well, you've never been to a race in this area, because he's probably won over 300 feature events. So, Nick, let's talk about the rest of your season and some of the things that you're involved with. Cheetah Chassis, you're building these cars now. They seem to be getting very popular. You see guys like, when you see a guy like Brad Smith get in one of your cars and then get rid of the car that he had so much success to stay with Cheetah Chassis, that's pretty gratifying in itself, isn't it, to see somebody like Brad come over there and start running your cars?
Yeah, me and Brad got talking at the end of last year there, and he was wanting to update, and it was pretty nice when someone of his magnitude is looking at wanting one of your cars and tells you how much he's impressed with and how much he just really wants one of your chassis. It's definitely a nice feeling. And I think he ended up with like 75 wins in the other car. And he took to this one pretty well when he got in it. The first night was a little rough, but once he got a night in and changed a couple things, he had tried to do a couple things that I told him not to, and he found out why I told him not to.
Right. So it really helps with your program as well to have a guy like Brad in there. The two of you winning a lot of races. I mean, that just speeds up the process of making the Cheetah chassis better, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we drive different but similar at the same time. We are pretty much on the same setup, which, a lot of guys say that you can't take two drivers and put them on the same setup and go anywhere. And actually, a lot of the guys I deal with are all baseline pretty much the same. And, Brad, I don't have to do any with coaching, but a lot of the guys I deal with, I try to walk them through what the car's doing and this and that and try to help them. And now I've also got someone else to turn to when I'm kind of do get stumped every once in a while on stuff or this or that. Another person to help feed and try stuff, and it makes it a lot easier not being the only person that is trying to make them go faster.
2012 B-Mod champion from Lakeside Speedway, Nick Newton, is joining us this morning, and I know I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but it's certainly one of the biggest moments of the whole season at Lakeside Speedway, a tremendous, unbelievable fire in the pit area involving your race car one night. And fortunately, no one was injured as a result of that fire. But what's been the aftermath? You got a car that was burned up in that incident there. Just what was the aftermath of that fire?
Oh, it didn't hurt the chassis. It got everything, all the wiring, all the plumbing, all the sheet metal got burnt to a crisp. But as far as the actual chassis goes, it didn't hurt it. We sanded it all down, and it was all good. It'll actually be in competition this year out at Lakeside and Valley and surrounding tracks. Guy that's basically like my brother ran my car a few years ago, was a B-Mod. He bought the car from me, and he's going to be running it. But, I mean, it got a lot of bolt-on, the fuel line, battery cables, all that stuff just got annihilated. But the important thing was everyone walked away.
Right.
I don't know how, because Todd and Chase were right at the back of the car fueling it when it happened. I don't know how those two got out of there.
What was the biggest lesson to be learned? I know pit safety is a huge thing, but what was the biggest thing to be learned from that incident?
Man, we think what happened is the fumes from the fuel went in the charger and ignited it. It's what one of our friends, it's a fire marshal, looked at and said he thought caused it. And, like Brad Smith called me the following day, and he asked me, I told him, and he said, every week you back the car into the trailer after the heat race, you throw the battery charger on it, you work on it, then you fuel it and go racing. You don't even think about it.
Right.
And, I don't know how many times, countless times I've done that. I was just lucky that we had a slight little miss, and I had pulled the car into the trailer instead of backing it in like I always do. And the one time of, 50 races this year that I pulled the car in. So.
Yeah. Well, we've all done it. You got to do that. We don't run generators on our alternators on our cars, and I mean, not on the local level anyway. So that's something that we've all done for years and years. And thank God, as you said, nobody was injured during that, because that could have been just a really serious deal. And it was so good to see nobody. And the pictures, how dramatic were the pictures of that? I thought we had a picture of it somewhere. Unfortunately, we're not able to get it up here today on RacinBoys TV during the show, but still pretty dramatic. And a lot of guys running to the rescue to help out as well. I know Tim Carrick and a lot of guys were Day Automotive. Everybody was running in there to try to put that fire out, but boy, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, there were a lot of guys that come over. I think at one time we counted 13 extinguishers going or something. I know Tim and Cody come over there, and Huey's guy come over, and I don't even know where everybody come from. I ran to get the safety crew, and because it was during intermission, I ran up there to get them, and I took off coming back, and I just seen extinguishers going crazy.
Right.
Because trying to get it out. I'm thankful that it happened at Lakeside because of all the people there. You know, it's a rule to carry a 10-pound extinguisher.
Mm-hmm.
Had that happened at some of the other tracks, you know, some of the guys don't carry them extinguishers, and, you know, by the time the fire crew got there, it could have gotten even worse.
Yeah. And what's also
fire crew was good, and they didn't even make it there. We had the fire out before the crew even made it there.
Right.
So all the guys in the pits, I'm
job.
very grateful to all them guys jumping up and getting it out for me.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say what's also good is that your neighbors in the pit area, cars right beside you, there was a little bit of space between you and the next teams that were beside you in the pits.
Yeah, that was really weird, and we had made a comment before that about, wow, no one wants to park next to us. I know the guy that parks next to me, he had tore his car up because it was actually up at the shop restubbing it. And then the guy on the other side had tore his car up the week before. So I had like 2 spots on each side of me that were open, you know, luckily, because, I mean, I know guys on the other pit road said they felt the heat from it.
Yeah. So who knows what could have happened if they would have been there. Well, again, we're so thankful nobody was hurt in that deal. And hey, Nick, let's we've got just a few minutes to go before we have to let you go, and I want to talk to you about your thoughts about Lakeside Speedway being sold to Mike Johnson. It's not official yet. The paperwork is in the process of being done. They've agreed on terms. Announcements are being made about the schedule already. Your thoughts about new ownership at Lakeside Speedway?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, like Kirk said earlier, it's been a rumor for years, and it was kind of one of them deals. I kind of could see it coming, but it was a believe it when I see it deal.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we're going to have to believe it now. I see good things. I mean, Mike bought I-35 up there, I don't know how many years ago. I mean, he's went through and he's tried to revamp the track, and, you know, he put that catwalk in. He's done, you know, stuff here and there, and he puts on a pretty good show up there.
Yep.
Mike, seems like takes a lot of pride in his track, you know, trying to every year take it to the next level. And, you know, that's kind of what the track's got to do. And for a while, track's just kind of set, and, you know, this is what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it, a lot of those tracks that didn't try to keep increasing, you know, the facility, all those tracks are by the wayside now.
Right.
And in my opinion, one of the best tracks around here is Humboldt. You know, and Ron, he took a ton of pride in that track.
Yep.
And always tried to make it better, and that's what Mike's going to have to do to make the track stay afloat and try to expand it.
Well, is there any preference on what you'd like to see USRA out there, IMCA, non-sanctioned? Do you have a preference?
If it went sanctioned, I'd say USRA. I know there's a lot of IMCA guys out there, but I'm not an IMCA fan, and I know a lot of guys are. But there's so many outlaw cars down here that I think if you went IMCA down here,
It hurt the car
you'd
count.
be taking 5 years back. We're stepping 5 years backwards, and you just can't do that. It's going to cost guys way too much here to run.
What about NASCAR? You know, we have a poll up on RacinBoys.com right now. Now that Lakeside Speedway is being sold, what sanction should run weekly at Lakeside? And right now, USRA is leading 80%. Second is NASCAR with 20%. 0 votes for IMCA or no sanction. What about NASCAR? You know, we ran under the NASCAR banner. Your dad did. We've done it for years at the old I-70 Speedway and Lakeside Speedway. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think I ran under the NASCAR banner for 2 or 3 years when I started. I started right at the end of that era.
Right.
And it's good because, you know, it's guaranteed a point fund. You know, all that stuff is there, set in stone. But, and it's, I guess in a sense, NASCAR would be nice for a potential sponsor standpoint, because you can say, you know, you run a NASCAR Weekly Racing Series, and it kind of
Has a ring.
helps in that aspect,
Right.
which is then everybody knows NASCAR. The average, you know, businessman doesn't know what USRA means. that could mean anything to them.
Right.
And, they all know what NASCAR means. So I can see that helping in that standpoint. And you'd be able to run basically the same rule package we have now, because NASCAR doesn't mandate the rules like USRA and IMCA do.
Right. That's my vote. NASCAR. I mean, I love USMTS type modifieds, but I kind of like what you say. We've said it for years. If you go out to a potential sponsor and you say NASCAR, they don't know a darn thing about motorsports, but they know the word NASCAR, and it resonates to them, so that makes them maybe want to get involved with it. And then they can say, hey, I sponsor a guy that runs NASCAR out at our weekly racing track. I just think that it's something that they need to look into is NASCAR, because I know a lot of people were disappointed when they decided not to stay with NASCAR. Again,
I know I actually totally forgot about the NASCAR Weekly Racing Series until you said it. I've been doing so much, with the B-Mod racing, the USRA Ironman stuff, and then just local around here, and I had totally spaced off even being NASCAR.
Right. Well, hey, Nick, what the plans next year to go back and try to defend your title at Lakeside Speedway in the B-Mods? What else are you going to do?
I don't know if we're going to do that or not. We've talked a little bit, and I know there's supposed to be a couple big money shows next year, and I didn't get to make it up to the big money show in Wisconsin this year due to being in the points hunt. I know Brad Smith and Mike Haley went up there, and both of them made the show. Both had hard times once they got in the show, starting like 30 or 33 cars or something like that in 50 laps. It's easy to get in trouble. But I don't know. We've kind of kicked around a little bit. We're thinking about maybe doing some of that stuff, and going for some of the bigger money races and not race quite as much next year and kind of enjoy a little bit. And I think we ran somewhere between 50 and 60 shows this year.
Wow.
I didn't get done racing until the week before Thanksgiving.
Wow, how about that?
I think we're going to scale back just a little bit and enjoy ourselves a little more.
All right. Well, congratulations, Nick. How do people find out about Cheetah Chassis? How would they get a hold of you?
On my cell phone, which any picture of the car has the number on the side of it. It's 816-935-2928. Just give me a call. I can, I'll talk with anybody. I'll do a lot of updates on cars.
Repairs?
Yeah, I've stubbed 2 cars this year during the season. We just sent our car out with all new sheet metal and updates on it. Got 2 in the shop right now. I'm sheet metaling. Just about finished up with them.
So you can go to Cheetah Chassis and get everything that you need right there. One-stop shop. It doesn't matter if it's a Cheetah Chassis or not. And, again, I recommend Cheetah Chassis. I think they're probably the best B-Mod going right now in this area. Nick, congratulations again on the championship. Good job on building a successful business with Cheetah Chassis, and good luck next year. Okay, bud?
All right, I appreciate it, Scott. And thanks, Kurt and Todd there. I didn't say hi to you guys earlier. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Hey, I appreciate it.
All right.
Congratulations on a great year.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
All right. Nick Newton, 2012 B-Mod champion, Lakeside Speedway. Good kid, second-generation driver. I've known his dad since I was about 15, 16 years old. Drove the blue number 32 for years out on the local scene around here. A good guy, and they've raised their kid well. He has done a great job with his own career.
And a big influence, not just with his driving and his car, but a number of cars in the Grand National and B-Mod classes out at Lakeside Speedway. So he has quite an influence on what goes on, not just at Lakeside, but also at Valley and other racetracks around the area.
Yeah, definitely one of the top builders in this area. All right, we'll be back. We're going to open up the phone lines. We'll take your calls, 913-381-0810. We're going to talk about some of the things you'd like to see changed out at Lakeside Speedway. More here on Sports Radio 810 WHB when we come back.
Track Talk. You're listening to Track Talk with the RacinBoys, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet in Olathe, or visit them online at McCarthyChevyKC.com.
Welcome back. It's Track Talk on Sports Radio 810 WHB, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet. Go out and see Brian Schaefer and all the great salesmen out at McCarthy Chevrolet on Rawhide Road, just out in Olathe, I-35 in Santa Fe on the outer road. Again, Rawhide Road. Great deals on Chevrolets right now. And what better time of the year to save some dollars, man? They've got great savings, great interest rates. And, oh, by the way, did I mention there's Chevrolets? And I'm a Chevrolet guy. So check them out. Again, KCCars.com. And if you do want to look into a Toyota, don't forget McCarthy just opened up a new Toyota dealership in Sedalia, and that is McCarthy Toyota. So there you have it. Thanks again so much, McCarthy, for being a great supporter of the Racing Boys. Phone lines are open, 913-381-810. Want to know what you think about Lakeside, what you'd like to see. We're talking to some of the people on the chat room on RacinBoys.com. Some people say you need to look at the expense of NASCAR versus USRA. I'm sure NASCAR is more expensive, but sometimes you have to consider what that does for the teams and maybe not so much for the track. Yeah, it's a little financial hit for the track. It's probably about, I don't know, $25,000, $40,000 a year to be a NASCAR Weekly Racing Series track, but the identity and the branding, hopefully as a track you can sell billboards by going out and using that as a marketing tool to bring in new sponsors. The teams can do so. So I think there's a way to offset the cost a little bit easier than if you go to a potential sponsor, say like McCarthy Chevrolet, who's been great supporters of Lakeside Speedway over the years. You know, when you go to that sponsor and you say USRA, and then you've got to explain it and kind of make them understand that these are the, you know, the best kind of modifieds out there, or you just go in and say NASCAR and it all immediately resonates. And maybe you can ask for a little bit more money because you're a NASCAR Weekly Racing Series. There's ways to offset that cost, I believe, if you were to go NASCAR.
Well, NASCAR is not as big with the weekly racing program as they once was. Yeah. Back years ago when the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company and Winston was the major sponsor for the Cup Series, they also put a lot of money into their weekly racing program. When that went away, future sponsors didn't put the kind of dollars in that Winston did. Whalen is the title sponsor of the NASCAR All-American Series right now, so the amount of money that the national champion gets and the regional champions get, not as much as it was, say,
and if I'm not
15
mistaken,
years ago.
They've changed that. It's not more of a national championship type thing as it's a regional state championships.
Well, they do have a national champion.
But they do state champions, I believe, now. NASCAR does.
Right.
Not regional, but state.
And the biggest complaint was, well, you're paying all the sanctioning money and the license fees, and all of that money is going to Daytona Beach, Florida. It's not staying in the Midwest. That was one of the biggest criticisms of going NASCAR.
Stays in America. It's all I care about.
But the biggest asset is, as you highlighted, NASCAR, the brand. Right. And what that can do going out and selling sponsorships and the like. I know there are a couple of tracks up north, Adams County Speedway, Corning, Iowa, still under the NASCAR banner. There's some tracks in Nebraska, Junction Motor Speedway over in Nebraska. I think it's a NASCAR track. And at one time, I-80 Speedway, formerly before that, Sunset Speedway in the Omaha, Nebraska area. And, of course, Lakeside Speedway. There was a time when Lakeside and I-70 both were under the NASCAR banner, and it did work. In terms of bringing in sponsorships and stature to the weekly racing series in this area.
You got to use whatever marketing tools possible to bring in those potential sponsors and get them into the sport. New people, too, by the way, not retreads. It's great to have the people that have supported racing forever stay on board with you, but we need new blood, and I think that's very important to get new people involved in our sport. All right, let's go to the phones, 913-381-810, 913-381-810. What would you like to see at Lakeside Speedway? Christina, you're on with the Racing Boys.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, Christina.
And, Scott, congratulations on your daughter's upcoming wedding.
I know it. Can't wait. Going to have it out at Marriott in Blue Springs. We're going to have a get-together. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Christina.
Well, you're welcome. Well, I was just wanting to call in. I hadn't talked to you guys in quite a while, and I'm actually kind of excited, and I was just taken back when I heard that the World of Outlaw late models were going to be there. That's unbelievable.
Actually, Lucas Oil late model series.
Or Lucas Oil. It doesn't matter. I know.
Right.
My favorite, Jimmy Owens, I don't know, I just love that all of those drivers that come out for it, and I think that they're going to do extremely well. And we personally like USRA.
Now hold on a second, Christina. Let me ask you that real quick. USRA is what you personally like, but to be fair, we're talking to Christina Smith. Richard and Christina Smith, car owners, won the national second-tier championship with Kerry Davis. What was that, 2001?
2002.
2002. Long time ago, but still, national champions. I would think that you'd be more in favor of NASCAR.
Actually, no. I think that once you, personally, I don't. I mean, it was great going to the banquet, and but quite honestly, Scott, no one remembers that.
I do.
10 years ago, no one talks about it anymore. For us, yes, we liked it, but Todd Staley with the whole USMTS and USRA, I mean, they treated us very, very well, the whole organization. They're very fair, unbiased. And as you know, in 03 and 04, we had issues with things that went on at Lakeside. Mm-hmm. And anyway, long story short of it, NASCAR did not, I didn't feel as though, in my opinion, it was resolved the way it should have been. And so for me, no, I wouldn't want it to be NASCAR sanctioned again. Mm. I think that it brings out a lot of things that people, it takes the fun away from it.
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So excited about new owners coming in then?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, I think that Mark and Paige did a great job. And, you know, to me, Lakeside's a gold mine. It's truly one of the most unique and
3 minutes. Another caller, Wild Willie.
And I think that Mike and Kyle going into it, I think they have a lot of great opportunities to do things. And you know, people don't like change, but change sometimes is a good thing.
Yep,
and,
I agree.
I think that Nick Newton hit it on the nail when he said about all the things that they did to advance and improve I-35. I mean, no one can take that away from their facility. They really notched it up, and they seem to have a lot of car count up there. I personally don't like IMCA,
right?
And so I was pretty happy to hear that it won't be IMCA at Lakeside, or at least that's the rumorville.
Right.
So, but you know, I think it's a good thing. I think that if they're consistent with rules and you know, everyone's on the same playing field and page, I think it'll be a great thing for everybody.
I do too. Christina, thanks for calling in. I want to get one more call in before the top of the hour. Thanks so much for everything you do with RacinBoys. And just to say this, Christina works for Marriott, and that's where I stay when I travel up and down the road is Marriott's. None better. Thanks, Christina.
She's gone.
Okay, let's go to Wild Willie real quick. Willie, what do you know? Hey, Willie.
Hey, good morning. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Willie, we only have about a minute. We only have about a minute here, so you have to get it in real quick.
I just wanted to say real quick, man. I mean, you know, I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air about the deal, but man, I tell you what, I sure got a lot of phone calls this week. As you know, I'm a Lakeside's #1 fan, and man, you would have thought I bought it with all the phone calls I've had this week. Getting information, trying to get information, and find information, and everything else, you know. So it's been a pretty wild week for me. But
Willie,
I wish I was the owner, but I'm not. But
Willie, just tell them to go to RacinBoys. We got it for them. We got it covered, buddy.
I hear that, bud.
All right. So, you happy? Sad to see Mark go, probably.
Yeah, I am happy. I mean, at least it's going to be open. That's what I was worried about, you know.
Right. Okay.
So that was my #1 deal. Whether it's going to be closed or for good or open next year. And I really was hoping, you know.
Yeah. Okay, Willie.
I love my stock car racing.
Well, we know you do, and you've been a great supporter of that place and an ambassador. So thanks so much for calling in. Appreciate it, Willie.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Thank you. I think the big point about Mike and Kyle Johnson buying the track, and Don Mars also part of the ownership. If you look at I-35 Speedway and the improvements they've made to that racetrack, it's likely going to happen at Lakeside Speedway, and that is a very good thing.
All right, hour number 2 on RacinBoys.com coming up. Go to RacinBoys, click on media. It will take you to a drop-down. You click on live TV. We'll be in studio. We're going to talk about Lakeside. I want to talk about the safety issues, the wall, the staff, schedule. We've got a lot of things we want to talk about Lakeside
10.
Speedway. So hour number 2 coming up here in a moment on RacinBoys.com. For Kirk Elliott, Jed Marshall, Todd Surprise, I'm Scott Traylor. We'll see you next week right here on Track Talk.